Yo, what's good, guys? We are back at it again. This time, we're doing a tier list for all the pitchers you can be using in set 5 at the moment. Our last set before all cards become eligible again. And we're going to need it because the bullpen looks pretty rough right now. It has for the last few seasons, and a lot of those budget cards that we've been using, like Corbin and Lou Trevino and stuff to get us by, they're gone. So don't have that crutch anymore, but I think there are some serviceable options that they've came out with. So let's get into it. Aaron Nola, I've been kind of a fan of him all year. I feel like his release is a little weird, has a good enough pitch mix, kind of throws people off. You don't see him too often. Ottavino, one of the better right-handed relievers in the game right now, especially depending on what park you play at, if you know what I mean. I think he's decent. I think he can struggle with command. He needs to come in and get like a strikeout and get that confidence up. But if you can do that, I think he's very gross. Wainwright, not a fan of. I tried using him. I think he's solid. I don't think he fits in the best rotation in the game. Maybe on legend difficulty and only on legend difficulty. I just don't really see it on those lower difficulties. He looked way too easy to hit when I went up against him. Burnett, probably the best of these retro finest pitchers you can take. I think he's decent. I don't think he's great. Can run up a pretty high fastball. Blake Snell, Mike could actually have an argument for S right now. I feel like the starting pitching rotation is pretty weak. This is by far the best Blake Snell we've ever got. He actually has a 5-pitch mix for once. But I still don't really see it with him. Brock Stewart, same as that monthly card that he got earlier in the year, has 5 pitches, throws a cutter, a sinker, a four seam, and some other good pitches on that. I like him. I don't think he's dominant. That's kind of the problem with the bullpen. There's not many dominant relievers right now. So I think he's just solid. Rayleigh, looking like he's going to be one of your best lefty specialists right now. Almost Aaron Loop 2.0. Doesn't really have the funky delivery like Loop does, but does have a lot of the same pitches and will be hard to hit lefty-lefty. Bruzdar, absolutely hate this card. Every time I see him, I put 10 runs on him. I don't know why everybody loves him so much. He throws 3 fastballs. He's just not that hard to hit, man. If you don't play somebody that struggles against Outlier, he's going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. He's just not that great of a card. I don't know why everybody feels the need to bring him out all the time because he's not that good. I'd rather have Brian Abreu over him, who I think is also not a great card, but I think he's better than Bruzdar. Catfish, pretty mid, throws an absolute junk changeup that can throw a lot of people off. But other than that, he's pretty mid. Christie, a lot of the same can be said about him. Throws a screwball, obviously, the pitch he's famous for. Decent. Always has a funky delivery. You can kind of like troll a little bit with that card. So he's fun for that. Clay Holmes always looks gross on paper. Always gets lit up. Never a fan of his cards ever. Kershaw, I think, has a genuine argument for S tier. You could make the argument that you'd rather have Snell over him. I think for me personally, I'd rather still have Kershaw. And I think he is probably one of the better options in the game right now with how weak pitching is. Cliff Lee, if you want to make the argument for A tier, I can see it. For me, he just throws a little bit too slow. I'd rather use a guy like Wainwright that just has better through nines. Corbin Burns, in theory, he should be A tier. I'll probably put him there because I feel like for most people, he will pitch to that level. But on higher tiers, he's going to get lit up just because people have seen him so much. And he doesn't have the greatest control on that card either. Kluber, probably the best starting pitcher in the game right now. It's debatable between him and where's he at? Oh, there he is. It's between him and Randy. They're 1A, 1B. One's a more finesse, pitch to contact type guy. The other is a just overpowering unit, if you will. I don't like this Randy as much as the collection one. Come set 6, I'll probably go back to the collection one. But I think those two are the best starters in the game right now, especially since John Don's gone. Bednar sucks. I think if he had the slider, he would have Felix's pitch mix, but without the funky arm slot. So he'd probably go up to B, but just not a fan. I think David Robertson is one of the most slept on cards all of the time. Would even put him in A tier. I think he's just super slept on. For some reason, his cutter's kind of hard to hit for like no reason. Devin Williams, very hit or miss reliever. Um, on legend difficulty against a player who's not super experienced, he'll probably be awesome. On legend against a top 50 guy, he'll probably get lit up. And that's kind of the theme you're going to see with Devin Williams. He's very hit or miss. He's either dominant or he gets lit up. There's really no in between for him. I think Eduardo looks decent. Um, I'm probably going to put him B tier. His through nines look good, but he kind of has that Marcus Stroman problem where he doesn't really have any speed differentials. He's not going to get a lot of swing and misses unless you're pitching with him on legend. And if you're pitching with Eduardo on legend, you probably should be using somebody else. Class A just sucks. Throws two pitches, throws a fastball and a slider. So I'm just never going to be a fan of somebody with that pitch combination. It's just not very good. Gagne, very similar to Devin Williams, where he's hit or miss. He's either shut down or he gets lit up. Not personally in my rotation, but I could see why you would want him in yours. Evan Phillips, I think we've kind of seen the days of Evan Phillips being a great reliever in the game, kind of gone since they updated his pitch mix and gave him, I believe they gave him a slurve instead of a slider. I think he used to have a slider. I liked him way more with the slider. I think he's still decent, but he's not the pitcher he was last year with his finest card. Felix, S tier, easily. Control's a little iffy, but has an awesome pitch mix. They all tunnel off of each other, and he has that funky arm slot. Easily an S tier reliever. George Kirby, absolute control freak, but I just think his through nines are too low, and his stuff isn't that great. So I don't really like him too much. Diekman, very good lefty specialist option. Only problem is he's the left-handed version of Ottavino. They both throw sidearm, and they both struggle with control, but can be dominant if they get rolling. That's kind of how Diekman is. He's just a left-handed version of Ottavino. Peavy. This Peavy throws a little faster than the ones we've been getting all year, but I still don't really like him. James MacArthur, I think, is a solid option in your bullpen. Those, I think, 5 pitches. Has a cutter and a sinker, if I'm not mistaken. He's pretty solid. Tyone, very, very similar to George Kirby. Just not the best through nines, but he's an absolute control freak. If you get him rolling, maybe, but even then, I just don't really see it. I haven't used Luzardo, so this is all in theory. But in theory, to me, I think he looks like a top 5 starting pitcher in the game. I'd have him over Kershaw for sure. I think he looks great. I haven't used him yet. I will be using him soon, so we'll see. The verdict's kind of out on that. Duran, if he had his pitch delivery from last year, I think would be S tier. Since they changed his delivery to make him sidearm, I just don't think he's that great anymore. Always going to struggle on those lower difficulties because that splitter is just, it's too fast. It's going to get foul tipped a lot. You're going to fool people. They're going to think it's the four seam. They're going to swing early, and they're just going to foul tip it. And then you're going to get in a long foul battle, and eventually they'll probably hit a home run. And that's just how it goes. So I don't really love him for that reason. If you're playing on super high difficulty, maybe he's good. Probably still not. John Franco, finesse lefty specialist. He's solid, not the greatest. Cueto on legend is probably an S tier. On every other difficulty, he's kind of A. Just doesn't throw quite hard enough. I wish he could run it up to like 96, 97 consistently. That's him topping out on that card. So I just don't really love it. Montgomery kind of sucks. Has 5 pitches, but some of them are redundant. J.R. Richard sucks. Should be good on All-Star for some people just because he throws like one of those Nolan Ryan fastballs where it's like 108 miles an hour. But his pitch mix sucks, and his through nines aren't the best. Justin Steele, just not really, doesn't have the velocity you would want. Everything else is pretty decent, but his pitch mix and his velocity just aren't really there. He's basically Jordan Montgomery. Kenley, I guess, is still S tier. It depends on who you play. A lot of people just light him up because he's kind of like Corbin Burns, where like everybody's seen him so much. But I think he still has the potential to be dominant. It just kind of depends on who you're playing. Kerry Wood, a card I've kind of grown to like a little bit. He throws one of those Nolan Ryan outlier fastballs where it's just insanely fast for like no reason. And he has a decent pitch mix, but it's not awesome. If you can get him rolling, if you can get some strikeouts, if you can get a lot of outs and get his confidence up and his par start shrinking a little bit, then I really like him. But as is, he's just okay. Gausman, I think I kind of overrated in my content tier list. I didn't know he's only a 4 pitch pitcher. I swore he had 5 pitches. Still has a funky delivery and throws a good splitter, but he's just not what I thought he was when I saw the card. Senga fits in the best rotation in the game, in my opinion. They gave him a 5th pitch. We know he kind of has that Felix Bautista delivery. He's pretty gross, I'll be honest. He's probably worth it. I think he's like 600, 700K right now. He's probably worth it. Logan Webb absolutely sucks. Only throws 4 pitches. I was really hoping this would be kind of a flashback to his face of the franchise card and he would be gross. It's just not the case. Luis Castillo, again, same thing I've said about him all year. All-Star Demon. If you play on All-Star, this card will probably be great for you just because of that outlier sinker. Other than that, not really a super usable card. Mad Bum is solid. If you traditionally have a lot of success with Mad Bum cards, I think this one is still very good. But me personally, I've seen him get lit up a lot recently. Just not my favorite card, but for 10K, I think he has value. Mo is still good. If you like Mo cards, this one's just basically the exact same as the Incognito one that we had. He just throws 1 to 2 miles an hour slower. But if you like Mo's pitch mix, his delivery, that is basically the same card. Mark Pryor, just a super mid card. Matt Strom, a lot of people's favorite lefty specialist. I don't like him that much. I don't think he's my go-to guy. I think I'd rather use Rayleigh over him, but I think he is one of your best options for a lefty specialist in the pen. Freed kind of has a weird delivery I was kind of sleeping on, but still just not a great pitch mix. Doesn't throw super hard, but he's okay. For the price, you can't really go wrong. Merrill Kelly, I did not know how solid this card looked. I was sleeping on this card. Throws like 97, tops out at like 97. Has a very good pitch mix, not an awesome one. I really like that card. I think he's super nice. Mike Messina, solid. He just kind of always lacks with this pitch mix an out pitch, which is kind of his problem. He's going to give up a lot of foul balls and stuff. You can win games with this card, but he would not be somebody I would recommend. Pablo, another guy, basically Merrill Kelly, except he tops out a little higher. It's just kind of personal preference. If you use Pablo at all this year, I think he's had like 3 usable cards. This is probably the best one, and honestly, I could see him in the best rotation in the game if you pitch really well with that pitch mix. Patrick Corbin, kind of a gimmick pitcher. I liked him more when he had a bullpen card than somebody in the starting rotation. You can only throw that slow curveball so many times before it gets put out. Not really my favorite. Robbie Ray, I think this card's solid. I think the command is going to make him lack a little bit, but I think if you use this card, you will get some flashbacks to the monthly card he had a while ago. That was pretty good. He's decent. He's not great. Rob Nin, I think one of the most slept on relievers all year. Kind of a weird delivery. Throws a awesome pitch mix with an outlier fastball and a splitter. You can do a lot of cool things with that combination. So I think he's worth it. Dibble goes with Class A. They are the exact same pitcher. Just not really great. Raleigh, not dominant by any means, but I think as far as like an inning eater goes, if you're up like 2 to 5 runs and you just need somebody to eat an inning or two out of the bullpen because the starter's tired or you're just not confident with him, I think he's probably your best option for that. I don't think he'll ever get like super tanked, but he's not going to be dominant. He's not going to strike a ton of people out. Does have that slow forkball, but just not really an awesome guy, especially for the grind he requires. Oswalt, just another one of these finest guys that you can win games with, but I wouldn't recommend anybody use. Helsley, just super predictable. It has basically a default pitch mix with an outlier fastball. People tend to just kind of sit on the outlier fastball. I like Presley. I think he's been super slept on this year. They changed his pitch mix. I remember in years past he's been a 3 pitch pitcher. Now he has 4, and I think it's kind of changed the way he works in game. I like him a lot. I think he's solid. I think he can make a rotation. Sandy, just a little budget option. I wouldn't recommend anybody go out and get this Sandy if you haven't already got him. But if you have him, I think you can win games with him. I don't think he's anything insane. Shohei, as an argument for S tier, I think Shohei, personally, in my opinion, throws like the best cutter in the game. It looks just like his four seam. It's hard to read on higher difficulties. But the control is going to be a problem. Just confidence wise, I don't like putting him in S tier, but I think if you're really, really good with Shohei and you know how to pitch with him, I think he is S. Spencer Strider sucks. Has an outlier fastball. That's it. Tanner Scott, basically a right-handed Andrew Miller. I guess if you're playing somebody and they have like 4 or so righties in a row in their lineup coming up, which you're not going to see a lot, Tanner Scott's fine in that situation, but just doesn't really have the pitches to get lefties out. I don't really love him, but I think he has some value. Screwball, I think, makes the best rotation in the game. They kind of bumped his velocity. I think he can hit like 99, maybe even 100 now. So I really like him. Has great control. I've always liked his cards. Haven't really used him this year, but last year I used his monthly award card. That card was gross. I know this card's gross. I will be picking him from my BR pack when I get that. Glavin, just a really solid pitcher. Basically, if you don't want to grind for some of these Team Affinity ones, I feel like he's of a similar power level, and he's like 10K. So if you just need somebody to fill a gap, I think he's decent. Hinkie sucks. I'm not going to get too into it. Throws 3 pitches. Hoffman, just a good change of pace pitcher. I wouldn't like recommend him to be your first guy out the pen, but if you've just been pitching somebody like Randy or Kerry Wood or, somebody that throws extremely hard, Hoffman can come in and be a good change of pace guy. T-Mac absolutely sucks. This card's awful. I don't even want to get into it. Matzik, I think, as a lefty specialist, is so slept on. Tops out at like 99, has awesome through nines, throws a decent pitch mix, especially for a specialist. I like him a lot there. Whitey Ford throws some junk, but has a long windup, can be deceptive. Darvish, I think, if you have mastered how to pitch with his pitch mix, I think he's very good. Otherwise, I think he is going to struggle, especially in low difficulties. He's probably going to struggle a lot. But I think he has an argument for being in the best rotation. Zach Gallen, I think I'll give him the A tier this time just because they bumped this through nines, but I'm still not a huge fan of the card. Zach Britton, still one of the better lefty specialists. Honestly, I'd probably rather use Brooks Raley than him, but Zach Britton can be kind of gross, and he is more affordable now that we're getting the flashback BR packs. So I think he's all right. Not a bad card. I think he was overpriced at 1,000,000 stubs at like 400K for one of the better lefties in the game. I like him there. Zach Greinke, I'm still not sure if he tips his pitches. I haven't seen anybody use this card yet. But the main problem I have with him more than the tip pitches is the fact he just doesn't throw that hard, right? If we had a Greinke, I'm not asking for outlier, but I'm asking for topping out at like 99, 100 consistently. If he could do that, I think I'd give him the A tier. Otherwise, I think he's just kind of mid. Zach Little, just a solid guy. Throws, I believe, 5 pitches. If not, it's a 4-pitch mix with a really solid mix. So he throws 5 with the splitter. That's a huge plus. Absolutely like him. And then this Wheeler card is insanely overpriced, but he's a solid card, and I wouldn't be mad if somebody had him. So we'll save. You can see we don't have a lot of guys in S tier. I don't even know if we have 5 starting pitchers in S tier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We actually have 7. So I think that's about normal, right? You have your 5, and then the people who can argue their way in. And then relievers are weak. I said that going into this. I think Kinley, Britton, and Rayleigh are probably the best bang for your buck relievers, and Felix. Felix is gross. But past that, I just think the bullpen's kind of weak at the moment. A lot of these guys are just solid cards. I wouldn't be super confident with them pitching for you. I wouldn't go into the game expecting to win with a lot of these guys. I would be going in expecting to have to put up runs. So that's just kind of how I feel like the pitching is right now. I feel like it's kind of a weak place. But that is our pitcher tier list. I'll probably try to get infielders out on Friday, if not on Saturday after, because Showzone tends to take a while to update and add all the cards to their database. But I'm imagining we are going to be getting a 99 Corey Seager World Series MVP. So looking forward to that. That card should be gross. Until next time, guys. Peace.